Hello and welcome. For today, we are going to be deciding who would win in a conflict between the one above all from Marvel Comics and the Presence from DC Comics. Uh, well, let's make this clear stipulations wise. We're gonna say that the light, as it's called, is in fact also the Presence. Now you might be saying, I thought it was the Presence anyways, or no, it's not the Presence. Well, the reason that I think it's iffy is because the Presence has literally been said to have the belief of others behind him. Dark Presence sort of got cut up by the Sword of Eden. It's sort of in the air where the Presence resides, power scale wise. And the same thing is the Great Evil Beast and the Great Darkness. The Great Darkness is said to want nothing, but the Great Evil Beast is literally the Great Evil Beast, and it acts through agents of evil. But yeah, I'd argue that the Presence is something like the highest force or power or entity of the light. And the Great Evil Beast would be something like the highest force of the Great Darkness, or was, because Pariah exists now, but that's irrelevant. We're gonna say that the same Presence or being who created all of DC and is fighting the Great Darkness, that, whatever you want to call it, we're gonna call it Presence, is fighting the one above all. Now, the Overvoid, if we go for crossbar scaling and say that the Overvoid actually applies to Marvel and all other fiction, which is sort of a dumb argument on DC scalar side, because the crossroads exist for Marvel, and that's way below cosmology wise, and many verses have accessed Marvel that way, but different story. Suffice to say, we're gonna put it simply. I'm gonna put it simply. From a narrative viewpoint and position viewpoint, TOAA represents literally everything. If we take his scaling for what he represents, he literally represents the writers. He represents what they write on. He represents the characters. He represents the readers. He is a gestalt of every Marvel character, period. Everything. Everything in the Marvel Omniverse, which is defined as including DC, Archie, and everything, including your backyard and your basement. Go touch grass. That's literally what it said. But that aside, if we're taking that interpretation, the one above all obviously wins, because the Presence, whilst the Presence might have created the Overvoid, and this Overvoid might house every story, it's clear that there are beings who hypothetically in Marvel would exist beyond the Overvoid, structures that would exist beyond the Overvoid. And even in DC, there are things that exist beyond the Overvoid, and the Presence is not in fact supreme in DC, whereas the one above all is supreme in Marvel. And if you wanted to argue Marvel and DC are equal, which is another conflict in and of itself, or that they're both omnipotent and it's a stalemate, that statement is false, because the Presence is in fact technically not all powerful. And before someone brings up the whole Thanos thing, that was above all others, not the one above all. Even still, that was non-canon, just explicitly said non-canon. But if it was, remember, it's above all others, which is an avatar of the one above all. So, let me put it this way. Whilst the Presence might have created the place where all stories exist, the one above all is the person who's writing those stories and writing on the Overvoid to make said stories, and would represent the darkness, the Great Darkness itself. Yeah, that's kind of it. But if we're talking in the narrative sense, I'd have to say the one above all for the win. However, I will in fact admit that in a terms of cosmology battle, it might turn out to be a different story. But, of course, that would come once we've established Marvel and DC's cosmology, which can't be quite done, because they're not quite done, publishing everything for their most recent stuff. But other than that, have a great day. Please subscribe. If you disagreed, pull up. On the server, that means. Or in the comment section. JK, not in the comment section, because I don't feel like reading a bunch of paragraphs in YouTube comments. But I will discuss this with you over Discord, or another agreed website or platform where communication is the primary function. Other than that, subscribe and have a great day.